Good morning. Starting to look a lot like Christmas in here, isn't it? Come on. Come on. I know some of you, why did we sing Christmas songs? Maybe next week. You never know. You never know. But we're excited about this season. It's a great time. It's a great time to invite people to church. People are really motivated in this season. So be thinking about friends that you can invite, various things that we're going to do that'll be coming up, we'll announce. And I'm still got this thing of healing on me. I'm just happy we prayed over you guys again. Was there any difference in after we prayed the second time? Is there any change? Any change? Same? Change? What? Tell me. Same? Better? Different? What? Same or better? Same? Stayed the same the second time we prayed? Okay, same. How about you in the back? Sister, someone tap her, Jason. Was it the same? Same after prayer the second time? Any better? Who got prayer back there? Somebody did. Was it the same or better? Got better, so you went below. What did you go to? Good, but thank you, Jesus. We'll take that. Let's give the Lord a hand. I love to, we're not a church. We're not making up something to try to make us feel better like we did good. It's up to the Lord, but when the Lord's presence is there, you got to learn to grab a hold. You got to learn to say, "Yes, Lord, I need that." Again, He cares about us all the time, but sometimes there's a presence of the Lord that He wants to do something specific. And I think there were several others. Maybe you're just too embarrassed to give a shout out, but I think the Lord was touching some bodies and worship. And I just think that's because we want to be an experiential church. That's not a superficial, not an emotional, but we want to experience and encounter God. It's boring to come to church and worship without having an encounter with the living God and communion and singing of songs and prayer and in the Word of God. We want to be able to experience His presence and together. There's a special presence of the Lord when we come together. And those that watch online, He's not limited to being in a building. We know that you can watch online and God can touch you there as well. So this season is a season of busyness. It's Christmas. It's running here and there. I want to talk to you a little bit about your soul care. Now, our philosophy at the Vineyard, I think, is a Bible philosophy that the health of your soul is your responsibility. It's not mine. It's not Pastor Kim, my wife. It's not Pastor Charles or Jason. It's your responsibility. I want you to say with me, my soul is my responsibility. Let me say it this way, my soul's health, okay? My soul's health is my responsibility. Now, we want to help. We want to encourage, we want to support, but you got to do your part. And I want to talk to you this morning about keeping your soul healthy through the holiday season, because it can be crazy and traveling and running here and there and family coming here and there and just it's a busy season and it's fun and all. But I want your soul to be healthy in the middle of it, and I want our church to be healthy. We try to be careful and not to just overload with activities because there's so much already going on, so we're really careful. So we doubled up on bike night, not to add another outreach and do a Christmas. We wanted to go all in on bike night, make it an amazing time out in front of our building and loving on people. And so instead of adding another event, we're doubling up on what we're already doing. And it's hard for me to conceive that. I know we're not an agricultural people, but that nobody knows anybody that owns. It doesn't have to be a sheep. Could be a donkey. Could be a mini. Could be a goat. It could be a non-cat or dog animal. But nobody knows anybody. That nobody has any redneck friends. Nobody has any cowboy friends. We're working on. We have one goat. We need a sheep and a goat, but you know somebody with goats? Well, if they can get along, goats, I know. But we'll do goats. We need a sheep in there too. So if you find out somebody, please let us know. And we'd love to do a live manger scene out there. It'd be just so cool on bike night. Bikers wouldn't be expectant of that. And so it'll be cool. All right, Isaiah chapter 40. It's a great chapter. I'm not going to cover the whole chapter but there's so much that the prophet Isaiah is trying to lift the people's eyes to see how big their God is. Sometimes you need to just stop and be reminded of who God is and his majesty, how great he is. No matter how great you think he is, he's greater. No matter how wonderful you think he is, he's more wonderful. And so we're going to go to a very familiar scripture, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew. But before we get to that scripture, we want to be able to dig deep into who God is before we dig into how God will renew us. But I want you to start with me in Isaiah chapter 40. We're going to jump in at verse 25. God asks this question, to whom will you compare me? You can't say, well, God's like this God. No. God's like that faith. No. God's kind of, no. There is no comparison, uncomparable. He has no rival, as we sing in one of the songs we like to sing. There is no rival to God. There's no one like near him, almost like him. There's only one God. And he says, there's none that is my equal. You can't compare me. Who is my equal, says the Lord. He's not bragging, it's just truth. When God says it, it's true. When we brag, it's not true. We're inflating our ego. But when we say there's no one like God, there's no one to compare him to. Then he says, verse 26, lift your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls them each by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Now, sometimes one of the most spiritual things you can do, sometimes when I walk my dog at night, taking him outside, there's just something about, no matter where you're at, what's going on in life, to walk outside and look up and see the stars and just be reminded that God put them there and he named them. I know there was I'm not saying it's a scam, but people were selling, buy a star and name it after somebody. They've already been named. You can rename it if you want, but it's a scam because God's already named them. Now, I don't know the names, but he's named every star. Think of it. We can't even count our galaxy. We have to guesstimate. But I can't even put my mind around those numbers when they talk about trillions and trillions of stars. It's just inconsistent. God says, I named every one of them. Everyone. We get off on, he named the hairs on our head, numbered them. Doesn't say he named them. It says he numbered it. Yeah, that's Fred. Oh, well, Fred's gone. And that's Tom. And no, he didn't name the hairs. He numbered them. He knows. He knows about us. He's trying to establish there's no one like him. He's majestic. He put all the stars. Then he says in verse 27, why do you say, O Jacob? Now you put your name in there. Whatever your first name is, put it in there. And because we've all been in this place where we've said this. If you've tried to walk with God, you've said this. If you've struggled with faith, you've said this. And why do you say, O Jacob, and complain, O Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord. Basically, God doesn't know what you're going through, and he doesn't care. That you're isolated. Nobody cares. Nobody knows. Why would God let happen to you what's happening? You're going to get there in your life, and the enemy's going to make you feel like God doesn't care, that he doesn't know what's going on. And then he says, my cause is disregarded by God. He just is uninterested. I mean, what kind of God would you believe in that could name the stars in the sky but didn't know about your problems? The Bible says he not only knows about them, he counts your tears at night when you cry. The Bible says he knows every tear that you cry. But the feeling that can happen is God doesn't care, he doesn't know, and he's not going to help. Verse 28, do you not know, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. Can you imagine being in a crisis in your life, and you bang on God's heaven door, and he's taking a nap because he's tired? Can you imagine going to God and he said, no, not today. Maybe tomorrow, but I'm exhausted. In fact, you've exhausted me. I've tried to keep up with everything, and I can't keep up without, just give me a break. Give me a break. Because it's too hard. Can you imagine if you had a God that was depleted, a God that got tired and weary? And because, again, that's why he says there's no one like me, because he's the only one that never gets weary. He never gets tired. Now, he's contrasting all this greatness, all of this strength, all of this stamina. And then he says this in verse 29. He gives strength to the weary. Who's the weary? That's us. That's everybody. He increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary. I love that line, and Remember the Titans. When he sang that song, but anyway, you don't know that. You didn't see it. Anyway, he sings this line. Even the youths grow weary. And he says, they grow tired and weary. Young men stumble and fall. In other words, the strongest among us. You think of the pro football players that are playing today. You know, you saw the one quarterback, the multimillionaire that bailed out at the beginning of the year and just said, it's too hard, I'm done. I'm weary. You know, there's only so much physical strength and stamina we have. You get there mentally. You can break down. I had a friend of mine one time as a pastor, and he said he could see in the corner of his eye, in his mind's eye, there was this place he could lean into and mentally be gone. It was like this, he was on this ledge. And he said that he knew if he leaned over mentally, he could go somewhere where he didn't know if he could get back. There's a fatigue that is beyond physical tiredness. There's mental tiredness, emotional tiredness. You can take a nap and feel better physically, but emotional weariness, it takes a long time to renew. When you've been depleted and you've been drained and your body it's physiological, it's not just emotional. When someone says, boy, you're depleted, or depression, that's not just a emotional state. It affects you physically, or physically affects you emotionally. You can't separate us as here's my physical part of my being, and it's doing really great. But my emotions are a mess, and I don't even know where I'm at spiritually. Then your physical body is going to break down. It won't sustain you. There'll come a point where you'll and when you're in your youth, you think you're tireless. You can just go and take a few hours sleep, and you jump back up, bounce out of bed, and you just go. But that begins to wear on you. Nowadays, there are kids, I hear kids at 9, 10 years old battling anxiety disorders. I didn't know what anxiety was when I was 10 years old. I never heard of it. Did I have some hard times as a kid? Nothing big. I didn't bite, I don't know. I was at a good home. I didn't know what it was. You look at the stress level in our culture. People are living on fumes. They're exhausted. And you could just be exhausted in church. And I want you to learn how to not be exhausted, because you're going to be exhausted. If you live life, you're going to get exhausted. And if you try to live life spiritually, you're going to get exhausted. How do you renew yourself? How do you keep your soul healthy and happy in the Lord? And it's up to you. Remember, we said it this morning. Soul care, we'll do all we can to help you, but you've got to learn to take care of your own soul. So here's the promise. After God says, I don't get weary, you will. I have all strength and power, you don't. Verse 31. But those who wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up or soar on wings like an eagle. They'll run and not grow weary. They'll walk and not faint. One of my favorite verses in the whole Bible. Now, I changed to the version that I'm grown up reading, is they that wait on the Lord. You may have brought a version with you that I have. My version here says, they that hope in the Lord. And it's synonymous, but to me, wait is a fuller concept, because hope is part of waiting. In fact, without hope, you're not going to wait. But waiting is an activity that we have to learn. It's a spiritual discipline. So we want to talk about how to get to this part where he says, they that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. Some have said that the analogy, because he goes right to mounting up with wings as an eagle, that he's using the analogy of an eagle that would lay on a rock, on a cliff, and when they're molting and changing feathers, they'd pick out the old feathers, and they would recharge in the sun until the new feathers had grown, and then they could mount up with wings. That could be part of the analogy. I don't know. But I know this. It applies to us as believers, how to keep our batteries charged. Because life sucks energy out of your spiritual battery. There is nobody here that can have an experience with God that lasts and will not diminish. I don't care what God's done in your life, how he's touched you, what he's healed, what he's washed and cleansed and forgiven. We're all going to come to a point of being depleted. And in fact, God designed us to be depleted because he loves to recharge us. He likes the process. Just think if you could pray over people and they got energized spiritually and it lasted for 3 months. What would typically people do in that 3 months time? Run on the energy they have. They're not going to come back to God and say, God, help, I'm weak, I'm drained, I'm tired, I want to quit. Listen, when you're physically tired, what are manifestations that you haven't slept good for several nights and you're physically tired? What are some evidences that you're physically tired? Let me see hands. What is it, Deborah? You're grumpy. Missed sleep equals grumpy. What else? Let me see hands. What are you feeling? What are you feeling? Haven't slept good and so not getting enough rest. Someone else. What are you feeling? Come on, in the back. Say it again. You just get irritated, upset with everything. There's no grace level. What else? What are you feeling? What is it? So you can feel tired, can feel physically achy, sore. Your body doesn't want to move. It's just fighting you. What else? Yeah, you're certainly not going to look on the bright side of life. Glass is half full. I love what Jason Kidd was an NBA basketball star. He played 17 years. I know the end of his career was the Dallas Mavericks. They interviewed him one time and they said, how have you been? Because this is a tough business to be in for 17 years. And they said, how have you survived in the NBA for 17 years? He said, I take a lot of naps. And I thought, I like that. The older you get, the more a nap is it supernatural or what? Come on. I mean, I sleep better in a nap than I do at night. I don't know what it is. When I can get it, I get one chance when I'm nap. I can't. My wife's like, oh, why don't you back down? You needed the nap. I tried, but it's like if I get there, I go into this deep coma. But I can't. If I don't get there, I get one shot. That's just it. That's the way I'm wired. I'm like, I'm up now. But you were tired. You were almost there. Give it another chance. Won't go there. A good nap can be a spiritual thing. Sometimes that's the best medicine for your soul this Christmas season is find a time and take a nap. Just bless yourself. Duct tape the kids to the chair, No, I'm just kidding. Somebody will do that. The pastor said. I'll end up in jail. No, you got to tag up, make sure everything's safe, but listen, but this is more than a nap here. This is spiritually, think about it's easy to be in touch with when we're physically spent or emotional. Emotional tired is hard to replenish. You don't replenish emotionally overnight. When you've been drained and consistently beat down emotionally, it takes you can get hands laid on you, you can cast things out, you can bind things, you're still spent emotionally. I'm not saying God can't renew you, but it's a journey to renew emotions that have been depleted. You've got to work at it. It takes time being good to yourself and good to your soul. Spiritually, though, renewal can happen pretty quickly. And I want to talk to you about that spiritual renewal that'll affect you emotionally and physically. Because he says, they that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. Now, how does this work? What does it mean to wait upon the Lord? Now, let me just dispel maybe misgivings. It doesn't mean that you pray for 9 hours, but it could involve that. Waiting upon the Lord is a ceasing from what you were doing to do whatever he's doing. It's a God, I'm gonna put aside what I'm worried about. I'm gonna lay at your feet what I'm stressed about. I'm gonna give you some time to just be in your presence. So faith requires saying no to things. We like to use the language of cheating things. To wait on the Lord, you're gonna have to choose to cheat something or someone. And I'm going to give you permission to cheat. Because if you don't learn how to cheat things, you'll end up cheating the wrong thing, which is your soul. If you cheat your soul for work over and over and over and over again, you're going to collapse and burn out. You just can't, you're not wired to be driven, ridden hard, ridden, just keep going until they collapse. I've been of that mindset and I've collapsed. I know what it is to just keep dry and my soul not be healthy. My wife and I have learned to cheat the church sometimes. That, what? He would cheat the church? They're pastors. Yep, there's sometimes that we literally cheat the church of what it needs to take better care of our souls. I'll never forget one time we were away trying to renew our souls, and my wife was just needed a couple extra days. I'd committed several things to come back in time for, and the Lord spoke to me, and he said, I'd rather you be a better husband than a great pastor. I chose to be a better husband. There's oftentimes in my marriage, I chose to be a better pastor than I was a husband. You might be a better employee than you are a spouse. That's not good. If you gave your marriage the commitment you do to your work, you'd have a better marriage. You've got to invest in it. And it's the same spiritually. There's times we've had to say we're going to get away even though the church needs us. People are in crisis. But if our souls aren't healthy, you got to know how to wait before the Lord. Now, what does that mean? Many of you go on vacations and you come back tireder than you left. And there's nothing wrong with playing and activity and fun, but you didn't build into it anything for your soul. And we're going to do a reunion with our family on our sabbatical. We're cheating the church for several months because our souls, we're going to unharness. And we're going to be with our family, and it's going to be at a place that's got all kinds of activities and doing them. But what they don't know is that we're going to also build in time that they're going to be alone with God for their soul. Because we're not going to Disney World, but Disney World doesn't renew the soul any more than TV will renew your soul. You can't, they that wait upon the TV will not mount up with wings as an eagle. I'm often tireder after I sit in front of TV. And it doesn't renew the soul. Activity, just going, fun, adrenaline. But there may be a place for that, and that's good, having laughter and fun. There's nothing wrong with that. But you got to have that time to stop. Waiting involves stopping. It's at that place where you have to say, I'm not going to make this decision before I wait upon the Lord. How many of you, I don't want to show of hands, but just you can groan if you need to. How many of you have made decisions? They say this in construction. I'm sure you, Jose, you've taught your guys this. Measure twice, cut. If you don't measure twice, you're going to cut and go, well, no, you cut that now. Now you've ruined the whole board. Or if it's more expensive, a piece of glass or something, if you'd have measured, if you'd have just taken that little extra step, measured twice, you wouldn't make that. Think of the decisions you've made in life where you didn't measure twice and you went right ahead. Now, don't blur that out, but you can moan and groan if you want because it's painful. Some of you jumped into things and then thought, maybe I should have thought about that before I jumped into it. I quit that before I realized I don't have another job. Maybe I should have thought about that before I quit that job. I told one of my grandsons, he quit a job. I said, buddy, did you have another job? He said, no. I said, you might have wanted to think about getting that other job, then quit that job. He said, I can get another job. Yeah, a few weeks later when he didn't have any money, he's realizing maybe I should have looked for another job before I quit that. Measure twice, cut once. But spiritually, measuring twice is, do you wait before the Lord to get his wisdom before you move? Now, I'm not saying crippling, like, you need to go to the store and get milk. I'm going to wait before the Lord. Lord, do I need milk? And should it be 2% or whole milk? I'm waiting, Lord. I just need that wisdom and waiting. And that's God gave you a mind, gave you wisdom. You were, but you're going to make a big life change. You're going to make something that's going to affect your if you don't learn to wait before God. I don't want to decide without his wisdom. The times I wait before the Lord, part of being renewed is getting clarity. Now, if you wait for an answer, you're not going to get much from God. The Bible doesn't say they that wait for an answer from God. They that wait upon the Lord. In other words, you're showing God that you need him, you want him, you're surrendered to him, and you're listening. You're still. You're being still to listen for his clarity and direction. You're waiting on that peace meter to go spike to that's the direction. I've learned over the years, I'm not going to move on something new until I'm certain that God has said, move on this. Learn to listen. Waiting is listening. It's being still your soul. I love what my wife says, and she says, I think she taught on this in 40 for 40 on one of her DVDs that she taught. But she said this, when she prays, she likes to call it staring time. She gets a cup of coffee, and she'll go sit somewhere, and she stares. I'm like, what are you staring at? She said, I'm staring at the Lord. I said, yeah, well, what's the Lord doing? She said, he stares back. And if you learn to do that, that's what waiting on the Lord is. It doesn't have to be filled with a bunch of words. It's quiet. It's pausing. You could be sitting in your car and get in a place where you could just stop. Say, God, I need to wait upon you. I need to be reminded of who you are. I need guidance and wisdom, and I need to make decisions, but I want to wait on you, Lord. I don't want to move until you've given me the confidence and the clarity. And he will. When I'm waiting, I'm listening. That's why I journal. I write what I feel God's saying to me, because I've waited in his presence. And the best I know is I read his word and apply it. I feel that this is what God's saying to me. And in that context, I'm being renewed. Why does he say you'll mount up with wings as an eagle? It's that air lifting you up. It's the grace of God pulling you out of your mess. It's pulling you out of this weeds that you're in, and you can't see past the weeds. And God says, when you wait upon me, it's not flap harder, like some ostrich trying to get off the ground. We saw this. I love to watch these nature shows. They all get it wrong. I don't worry about all the million years. It took them a million years to develop this. No, God made them that way, you idiot. But anyway, I will fuss at the TV. But there's this bird. He travels like thousands of miles, but he hardly ever flaps. He just soars and follows the wind and knows how to it's amazing. As opposed to just, you're not going to last long. I don't know if birds can have a heart attack or not, but if you keep flapping that hard, it's not they that flap before the Lord are going to get somewhere. And it's not activity, it's not busyness, it's not noise, it's not enough words. It's just be still. Catch the draft. Get the wind. Let the Lord lift you up. Now, so first thing I do is when I'm waiting on the Lord, I'm listening. That means I've got to learn to be quiet. I can ask and say what I want to say, but I'm going to pay attention to the nudges. I don't hear audible voices, but I hear nudges. I've learned that they're God's whispers. They're impressions. They're senses of this is what you're to do. I'll get a phrase will come into my mind. One day I was waiting before the Lord, and he said, this is a Kim day. Go tell your wife this is a Kim day. Whatever she wants to do, we're going to do it today. It's a Kim day. I remember one time I was waiting before the Lord, and we're trying to make a decision on whether we were going to go visit somewhere and her old hometown where she was born in Massachusetts, and we were a few hours there. And the Lord just spoke to me and says, Needham it is. Needham is where she was born. And we were just aggravated, should we drive that way? I don't know. I just heard, Needham it is. And it just released me, but I wasn't like, Lord, should we go? I was just waiting in the Lord's presence. I was just stilled my soul, and I heard guidance, heard those simple words, Needham it is. I get simple little phrases that are filled with meaning and filled with direction. And he spoke to me the other day as we were making sabbatical plans, and God just said, don't skimp on this. So don't skimp on it, this aspect of what we're going to do. And it had to do with my bride. He said, don't skimp. You skimp plenty of times. Many of you have heard the story of our honeymoon. My dad gave us $500 for our honeymoon. This was 1978. $500, that was a lot of money. It'd be, triple that now, maybe $1,500. I spent less than 100 of it on my honeymoon. I took her to Kentucky Fried Chicken. The house was paid for. No one ever trained me how to take care of a woman. Never knew. I came home and for a little over $400 bought a brand new stereo for the house. I mean, it was rocking. Every guy's like, yeah, stereo. It was rocking. My wife's like, where did you get the money for the stereo? I said, my dad gave us money for the honeymoon. Honeymoon? You didn't do, we didn't eat, we went, I didn't know you had the money. I've been paying for that my whole marriage. For you single guys, When you get married, you better go all in on the honeymoon. Don't save it for when you get back. Go bankrupt on your honeymoon. Then you don't want to hold out. Don't hold out. I made up for it finally 40 years later, taking her to Greece. It was a home run. And so it just took me 40 years to make up for that $500 stereo that I saved. So there was a point there, not sure where. What? Don't skimp. Thank you. Don't skimp on Kim. That was it. You got to, listen, when you know you're more of a tight personality, more frugal-minded me, when you hear something like don't skimp on something, it's like, ooh, you know it's God. You know it's God when you hear God say, be really tight on this. No, that's just Jamie. God contradicts who you are. He challenges who you are. When you wait before the Lord, He makes you a better person. Sometimes I wait before the Lord and the Lord will just say, go clean the house. I didn't want those orders. So I thought that was the devil. Get behind me in Jesus' name. Go clean the house. What God would ever tell you, I'm going to renew you as you're cleaning the house. Now you might think, oh, that's great. No, I'm telling you, God's that practical. When you wait upon the Lord, so I listen, and then I also learn to look. What are you looking for? I'm not looking with these eyes, though you could, but I'm looking in my spirit when I'm waiting on God to do something I can't do. When I'm waiting on God to intervene in something I can't change. When I'm waiting on God to deliver me from something that I can't get out of. When I'm waiting on God to untangle a mess that I've made. When I'm waiting on God to do, I'm looking, because the looking says, I'm expecting. And the more you expect from God, the greater God will respond to you when you expect in faith. If you're not looking, you're not waiting. You can listen, yes, for those whispers and guidance, but you look in the Spirit for God's coming. God's coming to the rescue. The reinforcements are on their way. The cavalry's coming. I'm not sure when they're going to get here, but I'm looking for them. What are you looking for, you idiot? The cavalry. How do you know they're coming? Because I'm waiting upon the Lord. It's coming. It's coming. Reinforcements are coming. They're coming. But if you stop waiting, then you're going to miss seeing what God's doing. So I love to listen when I wait. Let God speak to me, speak through His Word, give me direction, counsel, advice, wisdom, encouragement, love. I love to look. My faith is saying, God, you're doing something here. I'm believing you to intervene. I was looking as I waited upon the Lord in worship, and God says there's healing here in the room. I'm looking for what's the Father doing? We teach people to pray with their eyes open at ministry time at the cross. God didn't say, Jamie, you make something happen. Go make people feel better. No, when you wait on the Lord, you realize it's outside of your capabilities. It's not up to you. I'm not waiting on Jamie. I'm waiting on the one that can do something about my situation. Wait on Him. Stop waiting on people. If you're waiting on a person, you're waiting on the wrong thing. They that wait upon whoever, if it ain't Jesus, you're waiting on the wrong person. You're going to be frustrated. You're looking for the wrong person. You're looking for the person to do something instead of the God that's in charge of that person to do something. Wait upon Him. So listen, look, and the last thing. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. I love the fact that in His presence there's joy. In His presence, there's healing. I long. I don't just listen. I don't just look. But I try to bring God my longings, my hunger, my emptiness, my spentness. You'll see me sometimes do this. I worship like this. I'll do it at home in my prayer time. And I'll just cup my hands. And it's my way to say to the Lord, I got nothing. I look at my hands. I got nothing. I fill my cup, Lord. I lift it up, Lord. Quench this thirsty soul of mine. I bring my longings to Him. Oh, Lord, I'm empty. I bring them to Him. I don't hide them. I'm weak. I don't hide it. I bring it to him. He loves that. He loves us bringing our messes to him. I long to be closer to him. I long to experience his presence, to know him, to sense him, to feel him, to enjoy him, to love him, to see his goodness pass by, to say, Father, hold me in your arms. There's that longing and waiting. That doesn't matter whether I hear anything, see anything, know anything. He's there. And he's looking back at me. And he's smiling. He's smiling. See, those longings are meant to bring us to him, not drive us away from him. They that wait, say it the opposite. They that don't wait on the Lord are never going to soar anywhere. They're going to be stuck in a crack of life. They'll never run because they'll never get the strength to get that kind of passion. And they're not going to walk in the way because they're going to give up and quit and faint. If you don't learn to wait, you're never going to soar. I want to soar. No, I don't live in soaring. I wish I did. Those mountaintop experiences, those times with God that he just lifts us. I mean, I've had many of them over the course of my life, but there's been huge phases between those soaring times. Soaring times just say, I want to soar more. I'll never forget a dream I had of my mother. And she was a crafts lady. And in this dream, my mother, I had to look, her body was like this little, it was whatever size she was. She had these giant wings that filled the skies. They were white, like tapestry, like embroidery, because she embroidered. They were like embroidered. My mom was just soaring. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, maybe just, was it literal? I don't know. It was a vision. And I just saw my mom smiling. She wasn't flapping. She had these, I'm talking wings that filled the sky, that were this ornate, beautiful, intricate design of I don't know what. She did needlepoint, and that was her. And it was like God gave her those wings to soar. And I want you to be lifted. If you've never had a time you've soared, then you've got to start learning to wait on God. I'm going to invite the worship team to come on back up, and we're going to practice what we preached. We're going to wait upon the Lord. And you don't have to get all uptight, we're going to listen, look, and long. Bring him your longings, your hunger, your emptiness. Bring it to him. We're going to wait. Just give God a few moments, some quietness. We're going to invite his presence to come. He's here, but he loves to be welcomed. It's just like somebody coming into your house, and you open the door and you let them in, but you never said, hey, welcome, come on in, let me show you around now. He loves to be welcomed. Let's stand up together. Let's welcome him. Let's worship him. Let's practice as a church waiting upon the Lord. We're going to be still. We're going to cheat. Whatever it is you're worrying about you're going to do after church, cheat it. Don't let it rob you right now. This is now, right now. Give God a few minutes to wait before him. Now we're going to sing, but you may be led to just be still. Put your hands out. Close your eyes. And just wait. Listen to him as you're waiting. Look in the Spirit for his rescue that's coming, and bring him your longings. Let's wait before the Lord and let him renew our strength this morning.